Hey everybody, what's going on? This is Sam with Historic Travels and welcome to another video. And as always, before we get started today, I'd just like to take a quick moment to welcome all my new subscribers and to thank everybody who's been leaving me comments and messages down below. Thank you guys, I really appreciate it. And hey, in case you didn't know it yet, there is official merch for Historic Travels. There's a link for that down below. And if you would like to take a couple extra steps to help support the Historic Travels YouTube channel a little bit more, there's a Patreon for that. There's a link for that in the description as well. And all right guys, well hey, thank you all so much for your support. And without any further ado, let's get into today's topic. A question that I get asked pretty often in the comments section for my YouTube channel is what is my opinion on people actually diving to the wreck of the Titanic, recovering artifacts from this ship, and then bringing it up to the surface? Because you do have to remember, the Titanic is a tomb. 1,500 people died on this ship when it went down. So is it okay to actually dive to the wreck of this ship, recover artifacts from the Titanic, and bring it up to the surface? What is the right thing to do on this topic? This is a loaded and very serious question, and ultimately I do understand where people are coming from on both sides of this argument. Number one, the Titanic is a tomb and it does need to be treated as such. Treat it with care, treat it with integrity, and remember that 1,500 people did die when this ship went down. However, on the other side of the argument, the Titanic is 2.5 miles underwater. It's not in a tomb, or it's not in a cemetery, or it's not somewhere where people can actually pay respect to it. Essentially, the only way for people to really come to know the Titanic and feel like it's something real and not just something we see on TV or read about is to actually recover artifacts from this ship. So essentially what they have been doing up till recently, I don't believe they actually have done anything different yet, but they're planning to, is that they only recovered artifacts from the Titanic that were actually thrown from the ship right after it left the surface and was on its way to the seafloor. And I was completely okay with that because they are recovering artifacts from the Titanic for the public to see, to understand, in order to study this ship more closely. But at the same time, they were preserving the integrity of the Titanic wreck site. And I was completely okay with that. And I had a lot of respect for the research teams that were recovering artifacts for taking this extra step to preserve the integrity of the wreck site. However, things are beginning to rapidly change at the wreck of the Titanic. You see, over the past several decades, it's been noticed that the wreck of the ship is beginning to rapidly disintegrate. And I'm not going to go into any reasons why this is happening. I already made another video about that, so there's a link for that in the description if you'd like to watch it. But regardless, we are rapidly beginning to lose the wreck of the Titanic, and as such, we are going to lose any artifacts that currently exist within the ship. So, because the Titanic is beginning to rapidly fall apart, should this change our views on actually going inside of the Titanic and recovering artifacts from this ship? Now, once again, the answer to this question is very opinionated and it will change based on who you ask. However, in my opinion, I think this should change at how we look at preserving artifacts from the Titanic. At this point, I'm actually okay with them going inside of the ship, recovering items, and then bringing them to the surface. And here's why. If we do nothing, the Titanic is going to break apart and we're going to lose those artifacts, as well as with any stories that those artifacts could teach us about the Titanic. So, that's the thing. If the Titanic was in some kind of preserved state, it wasn't going to break apart or it was completely sealed up and nothing was going to happen to it, I would still be at the same opinion that I was before. Just recover stuff that was thrown into the debris field, leave the ship alone. However, with this newfound knowledge that if we do nothing, all these priceless artifacts from history, things that could teach us so much about the Titanic, are going to be lost, I think we should try to venture inside the ship and save some items from it while we still can. And you see, my opinion on this topic has only gotten stronger in recent days. A few days ago, I had the privilege to visit an amazing Titanic museum called Titanic the Artifact Exhibit in Orlando, Florida. And seriously guys, this museum is no joke. One of the first things you see when you walk into the museum is this incredible recreation of an office in Belfast where you can see the Titanic right after she was launched and put into the water right after construction was complete. Absolutely unbelievable. And on top of that, you've got actual props from the movie, like this deck chair. This was used in the James Cameron film. They have recreations of the Marconi wireless room on Titanic. Shoot, they even have a recreation of Rose's suite, which is, as we all know, was modeled after the Isidore and Ida Strauss cabin on Titanic. Very cool. But the coolest thing of all were these real-life artifacts that were actually recovered from the Titanic. And honestly, this blew my mind, because when I saw these artifacts, I actually felt connected to the Titanic. Like, these were things that were there. This is essentially part of the ship. So when I saw these items, it really strengthened my opinion that yes, we do need to recover artifacts from the Titanic while we still can. However, I still do have conditions that I think that anybody who actually tries to venture inside the Titanic and recover items from it does need to follow. Number one, they still need to treat the actual wreck of the Titanic with respect and care. Just because you're going inside the ship to take items out of it doesn't mean you should destroy the wreck in the process. Even though we are losing the Titanic, I think it's important for us to keep the ship around as long as possible. You know, don't destroy the wreck of the ship just to get an item from it. Now, that being said, as far as I know, at this point in time, they're only planning to recover one item from inside the Titanic, and that would be the Marconi wireless system that was used to transmit the Titanic's SOS call. Now, right after they announced that they were going to do this, an article came out that said that they were going to have to cut this massive hole inside of the wreck of the Titanic to remove it. Essentially, this article made it seem like they were wanting to destroy the Titanic in order just to get the radio out. However, that is not true. For those of you who don't know this, the Marconi room on the Titanic was located in between the first and second funnel at the very top of the ship and right beside the grand staircase. And during the last dive on the Titanic, they ran a scan on the roof of the Marconi room and found an indent in the roof itself, meaning that the roof of the Marconi room is actually beginning to collapse. Now, I don't know about the rest of you, but at least to my eyes, it looked like there were a number of ways around the Marconi room where there were already a lot of openings in the roof around it that they could successfully get an ROV in there and try to recover the radio. And honestly, worst case scenario, even if they did have to knock down that little bit of roof that is above the Marconi room in order to get the radio, honestly, I don't really care too much because think about it. The roof above the Marconi room is already greatly decayed, and it's going to collapse on its own in the very, very near future. So even if they have to go ahead and make it collapse sooner, just so they can get in there and retrieve the radio, I really think that that's a very small price to pay in order to save a very important relic of history. I mean, honestly, what's the big deal if they knock the roof in now, because it's already falling apart, to recover this radio, or they leave it alone and it collapses on its own in a year or two, and it destroys the radio in the process. So to me, I think that just doing that little thing to save the radio really isn't that big of a deal. But in conclusion, I honestly think that it is our duty now as Titanic historians to do everything in our power to keep the memory of the Titanic alive as much as possible for future generations. I mean, just think about what Titanic means to all of you. Think about how you felt the first time you learned about this ship. Think about how you felt the first time you actually saw an artifact from this ship. I remember the first time I did, it blew my mind. The James Cameron movie is what initially got me interested in Titanic. But then when I first saw artifacts or items that were on board this ship, it blew my mind because suddenly I felt connected to Titanic. Think about what that would mean to future generations, kids that are going to live 50 to 100 years from now. By that time, there won't be that much of a wreck left for them to study. So by preserving artifacts now, I honestly think we are honoring everyone who was on board the Titanic that night and keeping their memory and the memory of this great ship alive for future generations. Anyway guys, that's it for this video. Thank you all so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it and found it interesting. And hey, let me know in the comments below, what do you guys think about recovering artifacts from the Titanic? I would love to hear your opinions on this because, you know, this video is just about my opinion. I would love to know what you guys think as well and share any insights you guys might have on this topic. And also, before you go, I also need to give a big shout out to Tom Linsky over at Part-Time Explorer for giving me permission to use this new syncing animation. If you have not checked out his channel yet, I highly recommend you do so and go subscribe to him. Again, link is down below. He and his team created this incredible new real-time syncing animation from one of the best Titanic books ever made called On a Sea of Glass. So I will post a link to that in the description. Please go check out his channel. And guys, hey, just keep doing what you guys do. You guys are incredible. Leave any comments below. Please subscribe to my channel. Please give my video a like. It really helps out a lot. And guys, just keep doing what you do. You guys are incredible, and I could not run this channel without all the support you all are giving. So hey, thank you all very much. All right, everybody. Well, hey, y'all stay safe out there, and I'll see you in the next one. Have a good night, everybody.